Are there any problems with water delivery along this 50 kilometers?
We will get problems to beyond 30 kilometers. We face lot of problems because at head reaches people, farmers will take more water, and most of the OTs have no shutters arrangement. Shutters arranged, OT sluices are there, but due to damage, the shutters are not replaced.
We are here in the main canal, the main left canal of the Musi system, 2 kilometers into the system. And what we can see here is a duckbill weir.
They had constructed these duckbill weirs with the hope to maintain the FSL full supply level, so that whatever is the excess water is left down to the tail end, and the water levels are always maintained in a proper way.
Okay, so that means that sufficient water is going downstream while limiting the fluctuation of level upstream.
Yes.
Why is it not functioning? Why is it not in operation?
Now most of the tail end people are using ID crops like cotton and groundnut and chilies, so they don't find this useful, and sufficient water is actually not going to the downstream areas, so there must have been some protest from the farmers not to use it. And he says because earlier, like for example, here they used to have shutters, and when the shutters were there, so there's enough water, excess water or whatever is here, but not enough is going out.
How did these shutters disappear?
Shutters is there.
So you just took them out? Okay. Okay. What type of structure would you prefer at this location?
Because we are using ID crops, we don't need these structures anymore. We actually should allow the water to flow freely, and already we have the OTs, the off-take tunnels or the canals, and there are sufficient numbers of them, so it should be allowed to go.
So there is no need to control the level upstream at this place?
He says the majority people are growing. For paddy, it is needed to maintain the water levels, but for the other ID crops like the low irrigation crops, it is better to release the water so that sufficient water is reached to the majority people. So
downstream
at the tail end.
So what do the people upstream that all grow paddy, what do they think about it?
That's a conflict. He says the upstream people want this structure, but the downstream, the tail end farmers don't want this structure.
Okay. So why did the downstream people win?
So the issue is not that there was pressure from the tail end farmers, but as an engineer they have observed that though this is maybe good for the paddy farming, the water is not reaching to the tail end, so they chose to remove the shutters themselves. It was a department's decision.
Okay.
So we're standing at this structure. Could you explain where it was designed for, how this structure was designed to be used?
So this is a OT, off-take structure, like a sluice, and this was basically constructed to allow the water to flow to the crops or the fields where the crops are there. So that was initial.
Yeah. And why is there an adjustable gate on it?
So there is a gearbox and there's a shutter, and based on the requirement on how much water is needed to be released, they would operate it, either close it or open it.
Yes. And how do they know how much water is needed?
Though they are now either they close it totally or open it totally. Earlier they used to have some measuring scale for 1 inch level, 2 inch, 3 inch and up to 1 feet level. So he says, for example, if there are 100 acres that need to be irrigated, they need approximately 20 cusics of water, and that would mean the level of the water here in the canal that needs to be released should be about 6 inches. So that's how they used to do it, but right now they're either fully closing it or opening it. That's all.
Okay. And why did this change?
The main problem is that because this was for irrigated dry crops, actually it was meant like that. That's how they had the water levels to be released that way. But because most of the upstream farmers are going for paddy and they need water 24 hours throughout the 120 days of the crop, so they are just lifting the whole the sluice gates and they're using up the water, and that's why now in the downstream areas there is a problem of water. They don't get enough water in the tail end. He is a farmer from about close by in a scheduled tribe colony, He has 3 acres of land and he mostly grows paddy when there's full water released through the canal. So he's Mr. Tirumal Rao is a farmer from a village that is about 2 kilometers downstream. So he is from this distributor, but he is actually lifting the water with a pump set from this canal to his farm. But his farm is under gravity, under the water, this particular, under the 3rd distributor. He has 7 acres of land and Meru paddy, paddy.
No, paddy.
Paddy.
Okay. And what is his opinion about this type of delivery of water?
He feels that right now this canal is not in a very good shape. First of all these distributors are not in proper functioning. And the main thing they feel is that the level of the canal, the bottom of the canal has to be increased, as in brought up, so that there is enough flow through the distributors into their channels.
Okay, and what do they think about...
Tail end people are not getting enough water, so that's why.
Okay, and what do they think about this structure?
So he feels that basically it is not of much use. The only thing is that the farmers in the upstream of the duckbill weir, they would get more water stopped here and the pressure in their canals will be better. But for us, the pressure would be delayed, so we don't find it that useful.